Hey guys, so we had a pretty volatile overnight again. Not surprising here. So this time, credit squeezy or however the heck you say. I just said Susie, but whatever. CS basically decided they were going to have issues also. So there was a whole freak out about the world banks now being part of the contagion of this bank run. You can see here pretty much from open market open or pre-market open at 4 o'clock, 4:15 just straight dropped. I mean, just steady sell-off all the way down to 6:45. I think the lowest we got was negative about 2%, and that was at 8:45 a.m. So we actually got PPI numbers at 8:30 right here, which surprisingly about that is they were very good PPI numbers. Like actually probably one of the best readings, like in a sense of inflation lower, that we've had in quite a long time. And we actually put a red candle in at 8:30, so that was kind of interesting to watch. But from a standpoint today, it was just extremely choppy. This was actually one of the hardest days we've had to trade, and of the last 4 to 5 days of this high volume, high volatility, today was extremely difficult to trade. You can see all the wicks and the long wicks we have and stuff here. It just seemed like price action really wanted to sell off, and if you were watching Volt or really anything that showed any sort of sell pressure, the selling was very steady all day long. Especially on the New York Stock Exchange compared to SPY and NASDAQ. But we couldn't quite break down. It was very interesting to watch actually. And then we had this massive, which this is very rare, $4 candle at 2:15. This was mostly related to the fact that the Swiss Bank said that they're basically going to help out CS with whatever's going on. So overall, it's hard to say if we finished on a bullish or a bearish note. From a supply and demand point, we haven't really established a new demand or a new supply. We are basically, from a technical standpoint, looking to put in a new supply here soon, just depending on where we go next. The one thing I'm watching is we're pretty much, if you just draw, I have this on futures, but I'm going to throw it up here on SPY now too. If you pretty much draw a channel, we're pretty much trading from 391.8 down to 381.7. So basically a $10 range is primarily where the price action has happened for the last pretty much 4 days now. This actually reminds me of lot in a smaller scale of this February 22nd to 27 move here. So we are pretty much poised for a breakout one way or the other. We've had this falling wedge for pretty much back until here, so March 9th. Even back here we had it too. And we just keep seeming to move the goalpost of the resistance line just a little bit every other day. So it's really hard from a technical standpoint right now to say where we're going to go. Just because everything is so data driven right now. I mean, one tweet about a bank struggling or Charles Schwab struggling or whoever else, and we're going to see some big movement. The market is very, very sensitive right now to data, especially when it comes to the banks. So from a realistic standpoint, we lost 390.1 again. That puts us in bearish territory with a target of 378. However, realistically, we're pretty much just chopping. And until we break out of this black range and close, most importantly, close, we're pretty much just stuck in chop territory. And there's a very good chance that we could stay in this territory until we get to FOMOC next week. There's just so much that goes into FOMOC with a potential for a pause now markets are pretty undecided with what they want to do. Taking a look at futures here, same exact falling wedge, breakout triangle pattern here, same black range right here. This time it's going from the 38.88 all the way up to about 39.55. So same thing, big range here. One, two, three, four, five of the last 5 trading days have all closed in that range. And if you look here, interesting enough, when we had our sell-off back in late February, early March, this is where we bounced to, was this 39.55 level. So the fact that this has turned into heavy resistance right now is something definitely major to watch. And I would really hesitate going long on any calls until we can close and hold 39.55. Otherwise, you're pretty much just, you're kind of taking the gun early, and most likely we're going to see downside. But it's kind of the same thing down here. Realistically, until we close under 38.88, you're just kind of guessing that we're going to continue this sell-off. The most likely situation is that we're just going to stay in this, like I said on SPY, $10 range. This is almost a 100-point range, about a 90-point range here, 80-point range here too. So very, very tough trading when we're this range bound on a daily standpoint and a smaller time frame standpoint. Taking a look at the VIX here, VIX has just had some incredible movement these last 5 trading days here. We went up, we didn't quite get to 30 today, we hit 29.91, and then we had a major sell-off. So we're seeing a lot of these wicks up here, so what just tells me is that basically markets are getting spooked, something's happening to scare them, but the fear is not staying on. So we haven't had, besides the Thursday candle, we just haven't had one of these candles that has been big, huge green, and then it prints and holds. So until we get one of those candles, we're probably not going to have sustained downside, and it's just going to be this extremely choppy intraday movements. The dollar actually had a pretty good bump today with price action that came, or I guess technically, depending on how you look at it, I believe the dollar was not up too much when we were open, so it did rise with SPY later, which shows that the confidence is coming back with the dollar in the banking situation, in my opinion. But just something to watch there. 10-year yield, this is one is interesting, and there was an interesting statistic also that the last time the 2-year and the 3-month treasuries have inverted was in January 2001, and the next day the Feds did a surprise 50 basis point cut. So that is something definitely interesting to see for the radar tomorrow if we have any Fed prop-up surprise talks. So, which is interesting because they did have an emergency meeting on Monday, and they do these emergency meetings fairly regularly, but they did move up this emergency meeting. So this is a regular scheduled emergency meeting, but it was moved up. So there's a chance they could come out and do something tomorrow, but with FOMC only a week away, less a week away tomorrow, I would be kind of surprised to see them do that, but it'll definitely be interesting to see if that happens tomorrow. Just for note, when that happened in 2001, the markets rallied obviously extremely impressively that day, and then the next 2 days gave it all back up and then some. So here you can see we had a massive drop in the rate on the 10-year, which tells me today, and this is from today's candle right here, this big red one, that people piled into safety because obviously they're scared. So something that's interesting is we did have a little bit of a relief here, but unlike on Monday and Tuesday when this happened, we actually didn't get that much of a relief in comparison to how many people piled into it. So even though basically the Swiss came out and said, we're going to handle the situation, we didn't really get that relief in the treasuries, which means we didn't push the rate back up, which means people are still holding those. So this is definitely something to watch. If we don't get a big pop back up tomorrow on the rate, there's a chance that we're going to continue downside because people are scared. Taking a look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was looking really strong this morning. It did end up having a little bit of a sell-off, but it actually popped up pretty nicely, but it is putting in a nice double top right here off this 24.7K range here. So we get some jobs data tomorrow morning. That'll be interesting to see if that moves the market at all. But overall, we'll just kind of trade with what's in front of us. Really, really tough, choppy market right now. But I hope you guys had a good day trading today, and I will see you guys tomorrow.